healing process of the relationship by just knowing the gracefulness. We all need grace. This is where the grace comes in. We all need the grace to grow, grace to grow. And that's kind of why God puts us in families, and we start out as infants, we grow up together as children. It's a progressive state. We're still growing. Just because we're adults, it doesn't mean that we've stopped growing and we haven't stopped learning. So the growing and the learning is a continual process, and we get to grow in love. Now, I'm not saying, we take abuse and say, I'm growing in love. No, that's a hard no. But just knowing that I don't have to be perfect to be in this family. I don't have to be perfect to be loved. And I can be loved, and there can be boundaries. But realistically, at this table, we are agreeing that this is our family value, that we value personal growth and development. We value grace. We value reconciliation. We value those things. We value that we're being healed. We value that growth is a process. And as we're kind to one another and understanding, we facilitate growth. Because no one grows in criticism. No one grows in judgment. No one grows in negativity. So we're agreeing that we're going to honor growth. Like, we get to grow here. We get to grow in this family. And that's putting a mandate on it too, because sometimes people get comfortable and be like, you know me, I didn't mean that. No, I know you, and I know that you need to grow. I know that you need to look at your behavior. And so while we honor the growth and healing process, we honor holding you accountable and holding ourselves accountable, that it's not permission to say, well, that's how they are. No, we honor the growth and healing process. And it is, key word, it is a process, meaning that it is going to take some time again. And then we want to establish at this table and monitor boundaries. We want to. We have to look at, are we a rigid, enmeshed family? Are we? Do we have one band and one sound to the tune of that we don't respect everyone's opinion and needs? Are we? Is there emotional blackmail, like where people have to agree or they're going to be kicked out of the circle? Is there? Like, what is the boundaries like? Do we allow certain family members to, because that's just how they are, to show up late, to show up with nothing, to show up with a bad attitude? We get to monitor and establish the boundaries so that everyone feels respected, like there's kindness, and that there's support. Might have to tighten that back up. Support's a big one. You show up for this person's party, but you don't show up for this person's party. You show up to this person's child's event, but you don't show. You have to commit to, like, the boundaries of support. Like, inside of this family is support. And so be willing to restructure the boundaries for safety, and then monitor it. Who's going to be on the wall? Who's going to be? Because sometimes what happens is you feel like, I don't want to be the one who's causing the problems. I don't want to be the one who's bringing up the issues. And so you want to have some flexibility there, where you're not always calling foul, and you're not always trying to get back to the peace table. These are basic conversations. The peace table is for when there has been an absolute breakdown and there needs to be re-strategizing, and there needs to be a hard conversation about the future of the family. There's little conversations that you have before you get here. So you're not always calling a peace treaty or a reconciliation meeting. Reconciliation meetings could be avoided if we would learn to use our communication skills. When the offense happens, we address it immediately. So the monitoring of the breakdown of the reconciliation, that's bigger. That's when there's definitely, okay, we're back in those patterns of stonewalling. People are shutting down. People are not showing up at events. People are sending subliminals. It's just obvious when there becomes a complete fragmentation and breakdown. And that's when you respond to, can we sit down and talk? Can we have a larger meeting? But the actual offense, if you handle offense, like offense on the moment, then that can help you to have a quick reconciliation versus coming to the table. Right? So these are designed when there has been estrangement, or when you're at the break of an estrangement, where people are at the point where I can't take this anymore, I'm leaving, and and it just seems like there's threat of losing the relationship. And it has to take time. Some people feel like it's too much work. Well, you have to choose your heart. It's hard being angry and sick, and it's hard having forgiveness and reconciliation. But the reward for reconciliation is the same reward as forgiveness. You are just blessing yourself with peace. You're blessing yourself with maturity. You're sowing mercy. You're sowing kindness, and you are in the cycle of receiving mercy and kindness, and so that you can grow, right? And you're not trying to recreate relationships to replace the old relationship, because guess what? Whatever you recreate, you're still going to have human beings in there, and human beings are flawed. So the payoff for coming to the table is pay now or pay later. You're going to pay. You're going to pay. You just have to decide how you're going to pay. And by getting these tools, it becomes less threatening and less difficult. And initially, it may be difficult to do this process, but as you get practice and as you continue to implement these skills and make this a normal part of your family functioning, as far as communicating and forgiving and coming here when you need to, it becomes less confrontational. It becomes more of, how can we build? And you get to change the reframe. It's not like I'm going to the principal's office, because that's how it feels when you're accustomed to not having conflict resolution, which is the peace table. Then you think of it negative, like it's going to end in fighting. It's going to end with blows. It's going to end worse than it started. It's like I'm going to be shamed. I'm going to be spoken to negatively. No, that's not the objective. The objective is to look at, I have a chance to build. I have a chance to restore my brothers and sisters. I have a chance to bring health to my family. I have a chance to gain more strength, because where there's unity, there's strength. Some of us are not strong because we're so fragmented, and we're in illness because we're in I-ness. But when you come to the table and you decide, I get all of this support, I get the benefit, all the giftings in my family, I get to celebrate the family that God gave me. I get to reconcile. While there's breath and while there's life, I get to refuse to be to give this relationship away. I'm doing everything I can to sustain the relationship. And how beautiful when they show up to the table, can we acknowledge that? Thank you for coming to the table, because many won't come. Many are estranged, but we need to recognize the effort of coming and understand that we want to be patient. It's an act of learning and expanding and stretching yourself. People are going to be uncomfortable. People are going to be reluctant. So when we get here, we just acknowledge the gratitude of just showing up, just choosing to come to the table. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And that has to be our spirit. Like, well, you need to come. No, because we're choosing adults. Everyone is choosing to be in relationship. God allows choice. So when we all get to the table, the commonality needs to initially begin with, thank you for coming to the table. I don't know if you're spiritual or not, you might want to pray, but there needs to be an acknowledgement to cut through the ice and bring awareness to the fact that you came to the table. Many will not come to the table, but you came to the table. And the hopefulness we're going to borrow from, prior experiences, that this is going to be for our good. We're going to leave this table with more understanding, more compassion, clarity, and more determination to protect the safety of the family. Oh, this table is a beautiful table. It has to be prepared. It has to be in the right place at the right time with the right people with the right meal. But it is a beautiful table. And we all, if you're in the helping profession or even if you're a family member, we should be willing to invite people to the table. Why? Because we all want to be at the table of peace with God, or we all want to have the benefits of being in peace. Because when we're not in peace, we're in dis-ease. So we get to choose to come to the table. The invitation to come to the table. It might be a little scary, but the more love and transparency and just acceptance there is, oh, the table becomes beautiful. And just like with eating, we don't eat in our sympathetic nervous state. If we're nervous, we can't eat. But when we're in our parasympathetic, when we're rested, that's called the rested and digested stage. So we just first make sure everyone is rested, respected, so that we can dine and we can trust and we can just fellowship and begin the process of unification through fellowship and communication and bonding. Remember that oxytocin? Coming to the table and connecting recreates the oxytocin needed to have the bonding effect. Come to the table. That's module. We're still in the module of reconciliation. What a beautiful table.